Welcome to Money Media. Take a seat at the table with me. On the table, there are colorful cardboards, little plastic houses, a silver iron, and that familiar face, wearing a top hat, holding a cane, smiling, as if everything is fine, as if this is just a game. But let me ask you something. Who is that smiling man? Who is he really? We call him Mr. Monopoly, an innocent, charming, almost comical character. But today, I'm going to tell you what that figure actually represents. And after you hear this story, you will never look at that face the same way again. Because this isn't the history of a children's game. This is the story of how an idea was stolen, how a woman was erased, and how we are still being played today by her stolen concept. Not just on boards, but in our bank accounts, our lease agreements, and in the homes we dream of but can never seem to afford. Are you ready? America. The inequality created by the Industrial Revolution is at its peak. On one side, factory owners, landlords, and rent barons. On the other, people working 6 days a week who still can't pay their rent. And there is a woman outraged by this picture, Elizabeth Magie. Magie designs a game. She calls it the landlord's game. But this is no ordinary game. With this game, Magie wants to prove one thing. The value of land doesn't come from the skill of the owner, but from its location. It gains value because you sit there. You don't produce anything. You simply own. And she puts 2 different sets of rules into her game. One features the familiar monopoly mechanics. Buy property, collect rent, bankrupt your opponent. She calls these the prosperity rules. But the second set is entirely different. Here, everyone wins. Production is rewarded over rent, and no one is forced out of the game. These are the anti-monopolist rules. Magie's goal was this. I will show these 2 worlds, and people will understand which one they want to choose. The game travels across campuses. Students play it, modify the rules, and create their own versions. Years pass. And then, in 1935, a man named Charles Darrow enters the scene. Darrow takes a version of the game and brings it to Parker Brothers, claiming it as his own invention. He takes the patent. He makes millions of dollars. He becomes the poster boy of the American dream. The payment made to Elizabeth Magie? $500. One time, no royalties, no rights, no name. She passed away in 1948, almost in poverty, while people all over the world were playing with her idea. Now think about this. The story itself is a monopoly move. An idea was monopolized. The dangerous half, the social question, the which world do we want to live in, was removed. Only the mechanics remained. And those mechanics were packaged and sold to millions. The original message was stolen. In its place, the greed for winning was planted. But we must ask, why are these mechanics so powerful? Why has every generation sat at the same board for 100 years? Because it feels instinctively right, and this instinct has a counterpart in the real world. Think about it. What do you do during the first round on the board? You save money? You don't make strategic moves, you just try to survive. Because when the bank account hits 0, the game is over. In the real world, they call this a liquidity crisis. And behind every major economic collapse, this is it. Cash ran out. Game over. Remember Warren Buffett's most famous rule? Never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. This is the pure form of monopoly logic. Then what happens? You start buying property. But owning one property isn't enough. Have you noticed? You can't build houses until you complete the color group. you need to buy the neighboring plot too. In that moment, you see the tension in your opponent's eyes, that "I sold it, I'm ruined" look. This is market dominance in real life. A developer who controls a few critical parcels in the most vital part of a city doesn't follow the market price. They set the price. They don't just hold the rivals, they hold the system itself. And the final mechanic: for someone to win, someone else must lose. The board is a zero-sum world, and when the brain rehearses this repeatedly, it begins to accept it as normal, as if it has to be this way. But here is the catch. The real economy isn't like that. Efficiency increases, value is created, the pie grows. With one exception: land. Land cannot be produced. You cannot add a new Bosphorus coast to Istanbul. You cannot build a new center for London. This scarcity makes the real estate market the area most similar to monopoly, the most zero-sum field of all. And Maggi saw this in 1903. We are still trying to see it today. Now clear the board. Put a map of the world on the table. In London, the median house price is 14 times the median annual income. In Toronto, it's 16 times. In Istanbul, house prices have increased by 400% in the last 4 years. 400%. How much did wages increase in the same period? Take a guess. These numbers are not a crisis. They are a design. We call it a real estate bubble, but in reality, this is the macro version of the monopoly board. Limited land, increasing demand, the side that collects rent versus the side that pays it. And at the very top, central banks determining interest rates, like the card that pumps new money into the board. What happens with every interest rate cut? Liquidity enters the game, but this liquidity is not distributed equally. Those who own property get wealthier. The propertyless continue to pay rent and cannot save. The intergenerational wealth gap widens. And in recent years, a new player has sat at the table: institutional investors. Giant fund companies like BlackRock and Blackstone are buying thousands of single-family homes across the American suburbs. They play on the same board as individual buyers, but their vault is bottomless. What Maggi tried to show with horror, a world where those who establish a monopoly on land win everything, is the business model of the asset management industry today. Does this bother you? Good, because we came here to wake you up. Let me tell you something. Financial intelligence is not about playing the game well. Financial intelligence is looking around the table and asking, who wrote these rules? Elizabeth Maggi wrote the rules and was sold for $500. Charles Darrow claimed the rules and became a millionaire. Parker Brothers distributed the rules and created a culture. And we, for decades, have inherited these rules, without questioning, just playing. But have you noticed? Maggi's question still remains unanswered. Which world do you want to live in? She had asked. We just sat at the board and kept playing instead of answering. Great fortunes were built not by those who played the game well, but by those who rewrote the rules. Rockefeller wrote the transportation tariffs. Carnegie controlled the production infrastructure. Today's biggest investors are shaping the rules of the housing market. The question is not, how do I win this game? The question is, am I designing the next board? Monopoly taught you only one thing: bankrupt your opponent. We want to teach you something else. Real power is building the system that others feel forced to play. Elizabeth Maggi saw this system. but she couldn't own it. You can both see it and own it. In the next video, we explain how this system is being built today. Money Media. See you